Reduce stress and anxiety to find calm. How do we do that? Let's talk about that a little bit. Hi, I'm CiCi with Wise Woman Evolving, and welcome. So I'm going to keep this video kind of short. So I'm not going to get into too much of what you can find everywhere else. Yes, we can do the typical, things like going for a walk. It doesn't have to be a power walk. It can be gentle walking. Getting plenty of fresh air, sunshine, drink more water, stay hydrated, things like that. But we can get more information on that more easily, and I actually have a free PDF that can help with that. Click on the link in the description below and you can get more information there. But to get into it a little bit from a different perspective for the sake of this video, let's look at, in Chinese medicine, we take into account a lot of the, you've heard of the Chinese clock, the meridian system, things like that. In Chinese medicine, in the meridian system, we look at the heart. We're going to go there because we often think of that for stress and anxiety, right? Stress and anxiety can raise blood pressure, can cause heart palpitations, can kind of sadden the heart and things like that. But in Chinese medicine, we look at it, the heart is part of the fire element, of course. And the heart is very yin, very feminine. It's very soothing, very harmonizing. So why do we have so much stress? Well, then we look at the other side of that, the yang side, the more masculine side, the small intestine. And if we stop and think about those two elements alone, and I'm going to keep this video kind of short, so I don't want to get into too much more detail. We could go everywhere with this. I mean, a lot has to do, stress has to do with a lot in our lives, right? But to keep it just limited to these two concepts, let's take a deeper look at what the heart represents, what the small intestine represents, why those two would be related to stress and anxiety, and how we can utilize those to find more calm, more peace in our lives, have better lives, create a better life for ourselves. So the heart is considered to be about trust. Of course, whether we trust, we can open our hearts if we're very trusting, or close our hearts off if we're not very trusting. And yes, past experience can play a role in that. In my work with clients, whether in groups or with individuals, we dive deeper into the exact causes for each person because it can be very different. But to keep it more general for the sake of this video, we're going to look at the different aspects of heart and what that means, especially in relation to the meridian cycle, what's going on, how Chinese medicine looks at it, and what the first key words we look at when we think of these things. So that would be whether we feel safe or not, protection. The heart can have to do with depression. Also, things like anxiety and whatnot. Being in touch with the self. How in touch are you with what's going on inside, with what you feel? Obviously, we feel something touches our heart. That's a subtle sense of the word touch. Yes, touch is this, but in a more subtle sense, it's how something touches us at the level of the heart. A story, a scene. We might see a little puppy going to give puppy kisses to a child, and we go, oh, that just touches my heart. So, those kinds of things we keep in mind. The touch, the being in touch with self. If we are closing off our hearts, we're not very in touch with ourself. That can cause more stress and anxiety. It can cause insomnia if we close off our heart. Shock can bring that in or bring that about. So we want to be aware of what shock we've had recently or in the past that could cause us to close off our heart and not be so in touch with ourselves. But when we feel more safe, when we learn to trust ourselves, and that's what it's about. Relationship is not just about relationships with others, because we think of that when it comes to matters of the heart, but our relationship with ourselves. Do we trust ourselves enough? Do we allow ourselves our own protection by opening the heart? Because it actually comes from there more than keeping it closed. We tend to think, oh, close off the heart, will be protected, but that's not really how it works. So we want to bring more serenity, more joy into our lives by being more in touch with our own heart and what's going on in there. The other part of that we'll cover, just to kind of touch on. Again, I want to keep this video short, so I'm just going to briefly touch on some of these concepts. The small intestine. So in the meridian cycle, the heart and small intestine are right next to each other. They're both in the fire element. And so the heart is more yin or feminine, and the small intestine is more yang or masculine. And we have to have the masculine and feminine to have balance. The small intestine we think of as, well, there can be confusion or there can be clarity. There can be overwhelm, especially that comes from confusion or stress, or that can cause stress and anxiety. The small intestine is more about intellect and discernment. When we have balance there, when we have a healthy small intestine physically, physiologically, then it can play into how the mind can be more calm and have less stress, less anxiety, because we have more clarity, more, we're able to better discern, use our discernment for making judgment calls, for making decisions, things like that. Decision making kind of gets into other parts, and we won't go too deep here to keep this kind of short, but I just want to bring some clarity around that relationship between the yin and the yang, that relationship between the heart and small intestine, to bring more calm, more clarity, to be able to calm the mind, to be able to reduce anxiety, reduce stress by reducing confusion. That can play a big role to begin with. And remembering to trust ourselves and open our hearts, first to ourselves, then we can better open our hearts to others. But we can't reduce stress and anxiety if we're not willing to do that, if we're not willing to trust ourselves, to love ourselves. The heart plays a big role in that. I can cover more in depth with those two in my work, but what I'd like to do is just give you a tiny taste right now. So we're going to bring harmony to the heart and small intestine within the, I'm getting called to bring up the central nervous system as well. The brain and central nervous system will play a role together, but we're going to kind of link those together within the meridian cycle, within that Chinese clock that happens within the body naturally, to kind of bring more peace, bring more calm, have more discernment, to reduce stress and anxiety. So let's go ahead and do that energetically now. Let's take a deep breath in and out. And just begin to relax. Put your mind on your heart. Just bring your attention to your heart space. And then to the small intestine, to the upper belly, if you will. And that'll bring those two together to bring that harmony. The heart is the harmonizer. It will balance things for us. And when we can remember to do that a few times throughout the day, we can calm down that stress, calm down that anxiety. I invite you to learn more, explore more with me, either through group work or individually, or just by watching the videos I post here. I do post monthly. I post monthly group sessions that are free. And click in the description below to find more information. You can sign up for my free newsletter and mainly get that free PDF about finding health a little more easily. Again, I'm CiCi with Wise Woman Evolving, and until next time, be well.